This is the OnePlus 12R, the little brother to the flagship OnePlus 12. But don't let the term little brother fool you, because this OnePlus 12R is powerful enough to compete very closely to the latest flagship smartphones. Now the OnePlus 12R as usual comes in a really nice striking red box with 12R written in front, and in the box there's a USB-C to USB-C charging cable, a SIM ejector tool, some welcome cards, a manual, a safety guide and OnePlus stickers. Then underneath there's the phone itself. Now let's talk about the phone's design. Overall, it was very similar to the OG OnePlus 12, but a very few slight differences. Firstly, the style of the camera bump reminds me of a luxury watch with a grooved bezels around it over there. The camera is arranged like the OnePlus 12, but without the Hasselblad logo, and I'll discuss about the cameras later on in this video. It is a glass back phone, so it's quite reflective, so be prepared for some fingerprints and some smudges to be seen at the back. But this was something that I didn't mind compared to a typical black colored glass back phone, because this cool blue color made me appreciate the back of the phone even more. Now OnePlus says that the phone has 20% aluminium built into the device, which includes the sides and the buttons as well. But aluminium or not, I do really appreciate the build quality of the buttons because it was nice and clicky without making the phone feel cheap. Then at the top of the phone there's the microphone and the IR blaster, which is something that I wish more phones had because it is so convenient to use the phone as a remote for your TV, for your fan or even your aircon, something that I use more than I predicted I would. Then the button positions has been switched this time around, where the alert slider has been moved to the left hand side and the other buttons are on the right. Now according to OnePlus, this decision was made based on their research on a gamer preference and playing style as well. And another benefit of this slider change position is that it allows OnePlus to move around the phone's antennas. So with all of this, it apparently gives better performance in gaming in landscape mode. Hence the company calls this alert slider Gaming Edition. But from a usability standpoint, I quickly got used to this alert slider being on the left, as it didn't really affect my daily usage because ultimately I don't mind which side it is as long as it is not removed from the phone. So OnePlus, please don't take this away. Then finally, the phone also comes with IP64, water and dust resistant as well. Now as for the phone's display, it is a 6.78-inch AMOLED display up to a 1.5K resolution screen. It also has Dolby Vision, HDR10+, 10-bit color and a whopping 4500 nits of peak brightness. And that is similar to these elder siblings, the OnePlus 12. Then the display also uses Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2, so you don't have to worry too much about scratches and the overall durability of this display's glass. Now when it comes to the display technology, it is OnePlus' most advanced display yet, a 4th generation LTPO 120Hz Pro XDR display with upgraded color levels and better than ever responsiveness. And since it is LTPO 4.0, it allows the phone to switch between 1Hz to 120Hz refresh rate even quicker, and this not only gives you a smoother experience but also saves more battery life on the phone as well. And spoiler alert, the battery on this and don't worry, I'll give you my screen on time results later on as well. Now one thing that I really enjoyed when I was using the phone was my video consumption, because I just love watching videos on this phone, and just to appreciate the phone screen even more, I even decided to rewatch the new X-Men 97 series on Disney Plus Hotstar. The colors were really nice and very well balanced, and the screen gets nicely bright even against bright sunlight. And coupled with a very capable loud stereo speakers, it makes the whole viewing experience with the phone really satisfying. And by the way, X-Men 97, the best Marvel produced show ever, hands down. Then as for Netflix, the playback is at Widevine L1 playback, HDR10 and Dolby Vision certified as well, together with spatial audio. And also something that you should know is that out of the box, the display will be defaulted at 2376 by 1080p resolution, so don't forget to toggle to its maximum resolution to really take full advantage of this beautiful display. Now one more feature that OnePlus also included with this phone is that the display can also intelligently detect whether the phone is wet and eliminate any missed touches or delay touches. Now this is also a pretty useful feature and something that I really never thought of wanting until now. Now let's talk cameras. The phone has a triple camera setup, a 50 megapixel Sony IMX890 sensor for the main camera with OIS, an 8 megapixel ultrawide Sony IMX355 camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. Now since there's no Hasselblad collab on these cameras, how is the camera's performance then? Well, starting with the high megapixel mode, the 50 megapixel photo really shine well over here with amazing details and sharpness even when you zoom in close, as how you'd expect a high megapixel mode should be. And I have to say that I really love the ultra-wide lens images during the day, as these 16mm lenses not only captured the best focal length from an ultra-wide perspective, but also maintain the dynamic range and overall colors with no softness to the edges of the photos. Now, another place where it really performed very well was the main lenses, of course. Since we're looking at a really high quality sensor, now you'll get the best image possible on this phone using this specific lenses all the time. And the 2x zoom images look great too at 48mm, and yes, I can really appreciate the fact that the frame watermark also includes the focal length and the aperture value at the bottom of each image. Then the 5x zoom is at 120mm and look great in bright daylight, and while it can go up to a maximum zoom of 20x or 480mm, you'll expect the image quality to drop significantly, and of course that is to be expected for a phone within this range, so that was fine by me. Now, the rear portrait mode has two ranges, one at 24mm and the other at 48mm. And because 48 to 50mm focal length is how our eyes see things in real life, I did prefer the images at this particular focal length, where the shallow depth of field and the edge detection were great on objects even with some complicated shapes. Skin tones were also great for people too, and once again looking nicer in the 48mm mode. And while there is a dedicated macro camera, I don't know whether or not I'm good at taking macro shots, but I did find myself having trouble trying to nail the focus in these modes. So that could be a user problem, so I won't fully judge the pictures, but here is how it turned out. Now, another area that really surprised me was the image quality for the front cameras. As the skin tones were also perfect, the dynamic range for the portrait selfie was really good too, and I love how it immediately indicates the amount of aperture that you can adjust even before taking a shot on the camera app itself, unlike other phones where you need to touch into another option to see the aperture value. And it can go all the way down to f1.4, which still gives a very good edge detection. But I would say that f2.8 would be the best setting to maintain a nicer visual of the background blur. So to me, the selfie photos are surely one of the biggest strengths of the phone's cameras. Now, switching over to the night photos, the ultra-wide images were great at capturing darker areas of the skies and some shadows without any visibility of noise. And of course, the main lens did a way better job not only on those areas mentioned, but the highlight roll-off was also amazing too. But for the zoom compared to the daytime shots, I would go as far as 48mm or 2x zoom, not anything further, as you start seeing the image quality dropping, especially in a low light situation. Then portrait mode also did well at night, once again looking nicer at 48mm focal length for people, and the 24mm focal length was better in objects. Then as for the front camera, while I knew that the daytime photos looked great, I'm happy to report that the nighttime selfie photos was really great too. While there is an option to use the flash, I personally did not like how the pictures looked, as the non-flash selfie photos gave a better face contour in the darker shades. Now, as for the video, the ultra-wide lenses shoot at the maximum resolution of 1080p, but still with great quality. But of course, the main lenses were way better at 4K. Image stabilization for the ultra-wide was really good, and there is an option to turn on ultra steady in the app, but even with it turned off, the 4K video on this main lens was greatly stable too, since there is OIS in it. Then the front camera also records at a maximum resolution of 1080p, but here's where you'll need to turn on the ultra steady to get the best stabilized shots. Then for videos at night, the rear ultra-wide and the main lenses performed great, but the stabilization at night was not as good as the daytime shots, and there was some noise visible too. And don't forget to turn on the stabilization for the front video too to get the best out of it. And here's a vlogging test using the front camera for you to hear how the microphone sounds. Alright, this is a vlogging test using the front camera. Yes, it is using 1080p 30fps, but one of the best things about this is the fact that the skin tones are great. Even the overall dynamic range is pretty decent too for a phone within this price range. But of course, this is an audio test, so let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Test 1 2, test 1 2. Test 1 2. This is a sound test. Next, let's talk gaming. Firstly, just so you know that the phone comes with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset with 16GB of RAM and 12GB of software RAM expansion and 256GB of internal storage. Now, before you start commenting on how the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is an older generation chip, but one thing's for sure, that it does pack a punch when it comes to gaming. And fun fact, the chip was first appeared on the OnePlus 11 among all the other phones too. So OnePlus knows this chipset better, hence it was tuned very well for this phone. And I personally felt that the thermal performance of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is better than Gen 3, where I played COD Mobile at max graphics continuously about an hour plus, and the phone only hovered around 37 degrees. Now the heat did crank up a bit when I started playing heavier games like Genshin Impact, but even then, the temperatures were nowhere near as uncomfortable. Now there's no doubt that the cooling system that OnePlus included on the phone also really helped as well, as OnePlus calls this the Cairo Velocity, which has two vapor chambers, one large and one small. Now on top of that, OnePlus also added a new high heat conductive graphite to help even more with the cooling. So with this, the phone handles many games like a dream, as it also managed to give consistent 120 FPS in COD Mobile, and max graphics even a very long gameplay. Now Genshin Impact also played quite smoothly also at max graphics. The game ran at an average of 60 FPS with an occasional dips about 40 frames here and there after a very long gameplay. But one thing to note is that some games may not run at 120 FPS even though the game has native support for it. And then I was scratching my head as to why Pokemon Go couldn't hit the 120 FPS mark even though the game itself could support the phone's native refresh rate. Then turns out that I have to enable the games to run at 120 FPS through the phone settings, because not all games have this turned on by default, so keep that in mind. Now as for the phone's battery, it has 5500 mAh of battery inside, supporting a whopping 100 watts of SuperVOOC fast charging and SuperVOOC S for battery charging management too. Now firstly, I did not know how they managed to put in a huge battery in this thin form factor, but I'm glad they did. Now the phone fully charges in 26 minutes, which is absolutely crazy to me. However, even with the glass back, the phone does not come with wireless charging, so keep that in mind too. As for battery life, the phone managed to last me almost 1.5 days during my usage daily for the entire week, and it is hands down one of the best battery life that I got on a smartphone in a while, where I was averaging a screen on time close to 6 hours at 10% battery with dark mode turned on, and it is at the highest screen resolution with heavy usage of gaming, taking lots of videos and photos during the day and also at night. So if you want to get even more battery life, you can reduce the screen resolution, but for me, that is plenty screen on time on this particular phone for my daily usage before the phone battery dies. Now before your phone battery dies, do me a favor and give this video a nice big thumbs up if you guys are enjoying it, and a subscription will be lovely too. Thank you very much in advance. Now moving over to the phone software, it runs at Oxygen OS 14, which is based on Android 14, and it comes with a plethora of AI and other quality of life features. Now the biggest feature included with the device is the platform called Trinity Engine. Now this feature can enhance the phone CPU, the RAM and internal storage performance. But how does the Oxygen OS fare in real life then? Well, it is pretty freaking good, because there's a lot of functionality that the software offers, and a lot of them are very user friendly. For example, I use the OnePlus games a lot during this review, and I must say that it is quite an essential tool to monitor the game's performance. Just simply swipe from the top right of the screen and you can see the FPS count, CPU level and the temperature of the phone. You can also toggle between the high performance mode to give you the extra oomph while gaming, and that is not all, because OnePlus has also added the ability to boost the game's visual using the Hyper HDR function. Now this feature bumps up the game's colors and saturation, making the game overall look even much better. Then there's also many gesture features included in the device, which makes the overall usage very lovely. And another thing that I really like is the fact that you can swipe up 3 fingers while you're using one app and simply open the other for an instant split screen use. Now this is lovely for opening apps like Google Docs at the top and also YouTube at the bottom for taking notes or even pointers. Now I know that Android has this split screen feature for quite a while, but this makes it even more fun when using this phone daily. Then the typing experience on the stock keyboard was really good, and the haptic feedback also felt great. And besides the fingerprint unlock, I even decided to use the face unlock too, and it works seamlessly as well. Then the overall camera app was really nice and snappy, exactly how a flagship would perform. But if I had one complaint with the software, is the fact that the phone does come with few bloatwares out of the box. Not necessarily a huge issue because you can always uninstall them easily, but it is a tedious process to go through. But yeah, that is something that just worth mentioning for the sake of. Now, if you guys are lost in everything mentioned in this video, don't worry, because if you want a recap, you can head on to our full written version of this whole video at our website at www.adamlobo.tv. Links to that will be down below. So all in all, I'm a very big fan of this phone. The OnePlus 12R was first announced in January and is available now in Malaysia. Overall, it meets many of my gaming needs and the screen is absolutely gorgeous to look at. And of course, even without the Hasselblad collab, the camera performance was really amazing. But who cares what I think? What matters more is what you think. So let me know what you guys think of this phone in the comment section below.